So another useful procedure for identifying things in the problem domain is called the noun technique. So recall or remember that a noun is a person, place, or thing. So therefore, identifying nouns might help you identify what needs to be stored by the system. So the basic idea is to identify all the nouns. Or all the person, the places, or things, which are always some type of thing. When what we meant by thing here is not only the the literal things such as a a book or a a pen, but also it also includes a person, place, or other tangible things, or even events such as what we've seen earlier. So, and then refine the list to remove duplicates, like with the brainstorming technique, and identify which are classes and which are attributes of the class. So, after identifying all the nouns of the thing, next is that we identify which are classes and attributes of classes on which we're going to discuss as we progress in this lesson. So how the noun technique differs from the brainstorming technique is that the analyst lists all the nouns. So the difference between the noun technique versus the brainstorming technique. Oops. Brainstorming technique is that the analyst lists all the nouns without thinking too much about them and without talking about them with users. So only later will the list be refined based on consultation with stakeholders and users. So here are the steps to follow when using the noun technique. So first step is using the use cases, actors, and other information about the system, including inputs and outputs. Identify all nouns. So going back to our fictional company, which is the RMO, and their example information system, which is the CSMS. The nouns might include customer, product item, sale, confirmation, transaction, shipping back, and so on. So the second step is using other information from existing systems, current procedures, and current reports or forms, add items, or categories of information needed. So for our example, so this might include price, size, color, style, season, etc. So what's important here is that you need to take a look at the existing system and their procedures and the reports, and then you can identify later on and add items for the information needed um, for the new system. Next step is as this list of nouns builds, refine it. Because as you uh, there could be a list of nouns as you work on this as you use this technique, so and then you need to refine it and ask questions about each noun to help you decide whether you should include it. So questions such as, is it a unique thing the system needs to know about? Is it inside the scope of the system that I am working on? And does the system need to remember more than one of these items? So you need to see if it really is useful for the system. Is it included for the scope or the boundary of the system? And is it really necessary that the system need to remember more, more than one of these things? And then also ask these questions to decide to exclude it. Ex- um, so there could be nouns that are not really important in the system. So you need ask questions such as, is it really a synonym for some other thing I have identified? Or is it really just an output of the system produced from other information I have identified? Is it really just an input that results in recording for some information I have identified? So as you decide, there could be nouns that are not really needed. So you need to exclude it. So these are the questions that can help you with that. And ask these questions to research it. So these questions will guide you as you research about it, such as, is it likely to be a specific piece of information or attribute about some other thing I have identified, or is it something I might need if assumptions change? The next step is to create a master list of all nouns okay, so master list of all nouns identified, and then note whether each one should be included, excluded, or research further. And then lastly, review the list with users, stakeholders, and team members, and then define the list of things in the problem domain. So remember that in noun technique, you need to come up with all the list of nouns first before talking to the users and stakeholders and team members. But in brainstorming technique, you list all the things with the users and the stakeholders and the team members. So you are writing the things with them, but with this technique, you are writing or you creating a master list of nouns by yourself first and then consulting to them later on. So this figure here, this table here, lists some of the nouns for our example information system for the RMO company. So with notes about each one of them. So as with the brainstorming technique, the initial list developed from this table is just a start. So for example, for the accounting, then so these are the things that for that system. So accounting, so the notes, information about that is that we need who they are. No need to store it. So as you create your list of things, you can also create this note. You can also list your notes so that can guide you later on. Then for example, another example is back order. So okay, so the notes for this thing is that is it a special type of order or a value or of order status. So you note the note here is that you need to research further. And also, um, so this is the continuation of these partial notes of nouns here. So much more work is needed to refine the list and define more information about each item in the list.